Hello, everyone. Today I'm going into part 4 of the new Singularity. If you haven't heard the first 3 parts, I suggest that you do, or this one won't make anywhere near as much sense. Up to this point, we've been discussing a lot of things, and I've been reading from past material and commenting on it and bringing it into the fore in regard to what's going on now on the planet. And a lot has been centered around the critical rotational position of the brain on the brainstem, which originally was given to me, this information about that function, in the 1980s by my Inner Planes mentor, Thoth. And it's really a critical rotational position energy right now because, as I state on previous installments of this series, the Heliotrope Sheath that is formed over the Ascension portal of the crown chakra of the planet. Not the planet, I'm sorry. Let me start over with that again. The Ascension, what Thoth calls the Ascension Temple of the planet, has chakras that align from crown to base and actually above the crown, but we're not going there right now. So the crown chakra of the Ascension Temple of the planet, which is not the same as the crown chakra of the planet. The crown chakra of the planet would be the North Pole, because we're looking at it as a body, and actually not the North Pole, but beneath that is the crown of the whole planet, like you have the solar plexus of the planet, would be at the central sonatoma of the inner earth. But so we're dealing now with the Ascension Temple, or the ascension dynamics of the planet. And if you go there, you have a grid system for that. Your grid systems for a lot of different things, and they have chakras that align with those different things. This is the Ascension Temple. So for that, we have the crown chakra of the Ascension Temple, which is located, according to my sources, in Crestone, Colorado, at the Crest in the Stone Mountain, and the whole area, but the Crest in the Stone kind of focuses it. So above that location has been formed the Heliotrope Sheath. And this sheath is like a combination lock, and it's tuning in the various new inputs that are coming into the planet that are supplanting the inputs we've had so far. And this is the subliminal, the deep inputs. The critical rotational positions of the brain on the brainstem, they'll respond into honking horns and birds tweeting in the sky, But the deeper ones that are really, really what we're relying upon are coming from these cosmic inputs. And now these old versions that we've had for a long time, they've changed a little, but not that much, are being totally replaced by these new inputs. And as I stated on the other installments, we are now having to try to reorient our critical rotational positions to those new inputs, those new stimuli. And that's not easy because we're so entrained to the old. So the Heliotrope Sheath, which has been installed by the ultra beings, the angels, whatever, I don't know, somebody up there, somebody friendly up there has installed this Heliotrope Sheath. And this is helping us to reorient to these critical rotational positions in the new stimulus, So it's actually creating sequential numbers that are like, psionic numbers, that radionics, that go into the brain and help us to say, okay, these are the numbers that your brain wants to find for your critical rotational positions. This is the new, combination to open the safe, so to speak. And so that's what it's giving us. But it's not like a miracle thing where we just get them all and boom, we're there. It's a process. And as we're going through this process, we're having some problems with it simply because our brains are not wanting to cooperate with these new sequencings. And that's why the heliotrope is helping us, and it is helping us, but it's a gradual thing. So that review given, now I'd like to go to some information I brought through some years ago, probably, I don't know, maybe 2004, 5, 6, somewhere in there. And it has to do with the what Thoth calls the Yushuda, Christos whirlwind of the solar mysteries. So I'm going to read to you this it's not that long, rather brief insight on this. The function of the Yushuda, the movement of emptying and filling the cup or containment field that is whirling or spinning light codes, creating CRPs, critical rotational positions, in the axis of the crystalline particles of the planet. This whirling motion is stimulated through what could be called cosmic Christ consciousness. Now this Yushuda is in place over the planet. And we have our little heliotrope here, sort of a miniature version, focusing specifically on the CRPs, because the Yushuda is a much grander operation. And so the heliotrope is helping us, figure this out on a more human level. Yushuda is a larger Gaia device. And so anyway, we're going to read a little bit more about this here. But first, let's go back to the beginning of the story. Star suns are what Thoth calls the living lights. They are, in essence, each composed of many trillions of angels and other shining ones, which have been given various names by the religions of the earth. The pulsing energy from the central sun of this universe streams throughout the cosmos. All particles of matter respond to the sacred touch of the pulse. This response is an awakening of being. It is not consciousness, not yet. It is not consciousness, not yet. It is a force of attraction to consciousness. The divine song of matter to its maker, in this instance to the central sun of this universe, creates paths of resonance that, in more complex formations of matter, become vessels for consciousness. As souls incarnate into matter, they create sheaths of response to the cosmic pulse. The initial sheaths are not conscious, but sentient. They respond to stimulus, but do not ponder or perceive what they do. However, due to the specific nature of the human being, it develops centers in the body that secrete chemicals which stimulate the brain to receive a sophisticated awareness of self, environment, and other. Different stages of humanity have been on different levels in percentage of what part was consciousness and what part sentient. The stream of soul incarnations into the developing natural species of human that we see as the primitive first man was mostly sentient. The incarnating humans from what Thoth refers to as the solar races and the Nephilim, two different arrivals of humans, came here already endowed with a full set of consciousness. There were some other smaller human groupings hailing off planet as well, also fairly conscious. Now I'm going to just pause here and say, what about the animal species? Well, on differing levels, they have differing degrees of consciousness as well. The dolphin, the cetaceans, I can always never say that word, cetaceans have the highest. But there's a lot of sentient energy mixed in with that. The humans have a unique blend, shall we say, and a much higher level of conscious beingness. The Christ consciousness, however, is a sheath of response to source that touches into and yet goes beyond location, i.e. universal central sun, radiating in response to its own beauty as a reflection of all. This is the Christic ray that penetrates and creates the Christic sheath in every human being. Even those human whom we view as demonic incarnate contain the Christic sheath. However, for these, it is locked away in a chamber they have spun of their own devices, but it is still there. Yeshua, the Christ Master, whose Christic sheath encompassed his whole being, looked at no one without seeing and experiencing their Christ self. So now forward again to the Yeshua. This is a natural dynamic which emanates from the central sun atoma of all planets that contain incarnated souls which have evolved as a world consciousness to a certain degree of evolution. The Yeshua projects out from the center of the planet, being called by the central sun of the galaxy, summoned further by the central sun of the universe. As this dynamic moves like a giant clock in sync with the movement of the lunar and solar shells of the planet, it collects the dew of crystalline sparks from the souls of the planet into its cup or containment field. The stem of the Yeshua feeds these sparks down into the inner earth sun's atoma. They are then sent outward from the earth's atoma back into the cup reborn with new light programs and poured back like rain from glorious thunderclouds into the human soul spectrum once again. The Yeshua is the primary mechanism for what we are calling ascension. Through its receiving and pouring out, it is the grail of our first and final hour on this planet and all in between. Now, when we look at what is developing here is the Heliotrope Sheath, just over the cap of the Ascension Crown Chakra. We're seeing a miniature version of that, less complicated, more focused, specific version that is saying, okay, X marks the spot. So what they're doing, the beings, the angelics, the whatever that's operating all of this, I think it's just a composite of divine intelligence that is being cooperatively disseminated through higher beings and that are concerned with and work with this earth. We could call the hierarchies that work with this earth. They have devised this miniature version that is less complex and more reachable by the human brain. And all the species too. We don't want to leave them out, all animal species, but the animal species are really getting this a lot better than we are. Okay, so they're really not as much predicament with that as we are. But yet everything, rocks, stones, everything in some way has a critical rotational position or CRP mechanism, even rocks. And I said, how could that be? There's no brain, there's no stem, there's no, and he said, because of the energetic level that the rock operates on as a mineral. It's the minerals, not the rock itself, but all the minerals in it are operating on, because those minerals are in our bodies too. So that could go on and on. But the point is, everything is responding to the Yeshua. But we, as human beings, are slow to pick up on the critical rotational positions. So the heliotrope is helping everything, but especially humans, to get into that field, to pick up on the new stimuli. And it's interesting because I'd forgotten about the Yeshua being involving the critical rotational positions. I knew the name. I knew I'd put it up on the web, Spirit Mythos somewhere. I knew I'd written about it. But, you know, it's just like, I do a lot of stuff, and I have difficulty remembering it all. And then someone asked a question about something. I said, oh, that would be in the Yeshua. And when I looked it up, there it was. There was the whole thing. It was, oh, my gosh, I can't leave this out. So that's why I'm talking about it today. So I want to show you a picture here. I'm going to change screens. Let's see if I can do that. I should be able to do that. Here we are. I'm hoping you're seeing this. This is the artwork I did that relates to the Yeshua dynamic. And it was inspired by something that William Buehler, my colleague William Buehler here in Crestone, that does all the synergy work and the sacred grids and things, that he was working with. and another lady was working with him on that. I don't have her name present with me at the moment. And it's on the basis of the Rochelle, which was originally brought through by me, the basics of it. But William has developed it incredibly to a huge system. And so I took all of this info in and I said, oh, this is related to the Yeshuda. And I kind of dissected it and I put it together and I created this artwork. So that's how that all came about. But I do believe this artwork creates a sort of a dynamic energy that reflects that. Now my Zoom is saying, please move this window away from the other. So I don't know if you're actually seeing this. Oh gosh, maybe I should change the share. You share, that's what I need to do. So you're probably not even seeing it. Okay, so let me do a new share. Share screen. Okay, you probably weren't seeing it. This is what I was talking about right here, this image. So I'm going to give you a little while to look at it and just sort of feel into it. It's basically the Rochelle, the half moon energy system, but it's the Rochelle as a gear or a wheel within the representing the Yeshuda as it swings around the circle, and these gears focus into different dimensions. And so I'm going to move on to another part that I wanted to share with you here, because I'm using Zoom now to do this. I'm sort of feeling out how to do it. It uploads much faster. That's why I'm using it. I have a slower upload speed here in Crestone. So by using the Zoom, I don't know what they do to their files, but it really uploads much faster. But I'm kind of new at it, so taking my time here. I'm going to pause the recording and start it up again when I get the new screen going. Okay, this is a page on my Spirit Mythos archive site. And this is material I wrote back, oh gosh, long time ago. I can't even remember, right? Beginning of this century. It sounds like a long time ago, doesn't it? Like 2004 or something. No, it was much earlier than that. It would have been, well, 2000, 2001, something like that. Anyway, didn't mean to get into that mind warp. This has to do with the conversion zone. As the etheric level of the planet is raised due to a rapid increasing shift in human consciousness, so the world is moving through various levels of reality shift. While these are essential to expedite the full transition, nothing will be so dramatically felt as the Earth's passage into the conversion zone. The above image is one representation of this zone, containing symbols and colors which align to the process of Enochian light mathematics, which will be integrated into this Earth system as the process evolves. There will be certain astronomical and astrological corollaries to the Earth's entrance into this region, beginning with our movement spatially into the innermost zone of the photon belt. We are already in the outer sheath of this belt. As this begins to occur, we will see greater geologic disturbances in the Earth, especially earthquakes and volcanic action. Once the planet is fully within the conversion zone, its central sunatoma in the very center of the Earth, also known as the Holy of Holies, will lock onto the greater coordinates emanating from the 4444 Stargate, placing this sphere we currently inhabit into the center of the geometric zone, this conversion zone. All right, now I need to see if I can change the share screen, new share. I click that, and then here we go. Let's see if I can do share screen. There we are. Now, I just came across this the other day. It was on Facebook. Somebody posted it, and it's called, it's on this website called A Journey Through the Multidimensional Self. You are the creator of your universe. Star birth in Orion Nebula. Navigators of the Abzu, episode 12, published March 16th, 2017 by Aloya. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, down here it says, an Antarean conversion is a light lens which enables consciousness to move into our manifest galaxy and seed life within the galactic clouds of Orion. Light frequencies as lasers emanate from the stars of Orion and cross to form two cones of light which act as a prism, enabling the insertion of light code templates as appear in our galaxies. Through this portal or Stargate, many races were birthed. Now, I'm not going to try to bring it up because it's just too hard to find and, and do it here on this, but I have another article that really relates to this, having to do with the crossing of the zones here on the Earth point. But as most of you know, Orion is what I work with so much in my translations, because that is, according to my sources, the birthplace, the true birthplace of Earth. Other beings have come to Earth and star systems have integrated with all of that, but Orion is like the place that all of this comes from. So this really caught my attention because it had some key things here. As I listened to this video, which I'm going to share with you here because it's very short, I noticed that this source was tapping into J.J. Hertog's material to an extent, without saying so. But it is. And then it seems to also tap into mine. By that I mean not necessarily akashically, but from written material that I put out. I'm not absolutely sure about that. I mean, it could all be channeled directly, but it does seem that this source is leaning on these materials from both Hertog and myself to some extent. It's difficult to say how much. Nevertheless, there's some good information here, so I'm going to share it. I can't tell you where all the sources are coming from and whatever, but let's listen to it.
Within the pleroma dwell the serpentine gods and goddesses. They circulate around the core as massive currents of living luminosity. Their form is a serpentine, toroidal streaming. Their substance, a nougat-like mass of self-generating luminosity. These pleromaic currents receive the spark of pure potential from the universal dreamer and spin it into a standing wave living light template that can then be embedded into space, time, and matter beyond the galactic core. The eons merge their currents to form lattice, like a holographic plate. Using the lattice as a lens, the pleromaic eons project the living light template, the anthropos, into the outer realm beyond the membrane of the pleroma. Imagine a hollow stalk of light in the form of an immense opalescent shaft with a genomic design within it. The eons inject the pre-designed genome into the outer realms of the galaxy as if through a glass tube or pipette. Acting in unison, the generators implant the potential novelty of the human species in the carousel arms, like a fertilized ovum implanted in the wall of the uterus. The pleromaic eons project the anthropos into the galactic limbs with a precise, target intention of location. They embed the template for incubation in a molecular cloud or galactic nebula in the third spiral arm. The fertile moisture of the nebula is the ideal medium for nesting of the template. This template for new form to carry consciousness is dreamt up by the gods and goddesses in the pleroma and then erupts in orgasmic explosion through the way of the 9 passageway into the Orion Nebula. It is seen as a rod of light coming from the center of the galaxy. This rod of light then forms a light blueprint for the creation of a new form through which consciousness can express itself, whether that be as a star or human being. An Entrian conversion is a light lens which enables living light templates to be inserted through the skin of the pleroma into our manifest galaxy and see life within the nebula clouds of Orion. Light frequencies as lasers emanate from the stars of Orion and cross to form two cones of light which acts as a prism, enabling the insertion of light code templates to appear in our galaxy. Through this star lens many races were birthed. Stargates of this nature create a lens through which consciousness from the higher dimensions can penetrate as a laser of light through the Entrian conversion into the heart of Orion. The Entrian conversion as this lens acts as a focus through which life forms can be brought into being. The light templates live inside the water which is present at the heart of Orion and enables the development of DNA to create life. Anandahari inserted a beam of light or energy through the Entrian conversion into the lower levels. As this beam containing immense fractal patterns got squeezed through the prism of the Entrian conversion, it then acted as a laser imprinting onto the dimension of subatomic matter. The light pattern began to nest in perfect fractality and became self-organizing, self-regulating and self-aware, and thus life was created on the subatomic level. The plasma field reacted to the presence of this self-aware light pattern, causing the subatomic matter to begin to move into set patterns which would eventually result in the creation of Merkaba vehicles. Dew emanates from the center of our galaxy and is transmitted through the sun. Zohar called this dew manna, on which the souls of the just nourish themselves, and to the Israelites this manna from heaven was a celestial food. The sacred sacrament is like the embryonic fluid which protects the fetus inside a woman's womb. It is a cosmic fluid which protects and feeds the developing light/life template as it evolves into a genomic life form. In the Mayan tradition it is also the dew, the nectar of the gods, the sweat which forms during the tantric swoons of the gods and goddesses of the pleroma. In Yucatan they call the Its, the blessed rain of heaven that God sends through the portal open during shamanic rituals. Through shamanic practices, it is possible to open the stargate of the ninth dimension and drink of the nectar of the gods. This divine Its is the dew by which the gods anoint. Anointing is an eon's capacity to morph from porous foam to fluidic dewdrop. The chrism is the sweat of the gods. To the astrophysicists, the molecular dew, the sap that forms in the galactic arms and brings about life in our galaxy. If we look at the Orion Nebula, we can see bright, luminous, slightly pink blobs. These are the places where stars are currently being born. Baby stars in this emerging cluster are veiled behind the Orion Nebula itself, the great stellar nursery in Orion's sword.
Okay, well, regardless of where the combination of this information came from, it's really good, and I'm totally aligned with it. And I'm receiving that from Thoth that this is the source, the mana, the source that brings forth the stimuli that is reorienting our CRPs at this time. And you notice that, let's see, I'm going to get my other screen back. Let's see if I can do this. New share. Let me see if I can get my screen back. Well, I don't see it. Oh, that's not good. I had it right here. Okay, we'll just go back to this one because I don't know where else to go. So anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. As I've spoken about before, here in the threshold of the On, inside the mountain that anchors the crown chakra energy, where is Thoth's retreat, and also the threshold of the sacred On, where the sacred On, or the true arc, is in residence, you might say, at this time, and will be until the planet transcends. On the top part of the On is the energy sphere that Thoth calls the Manasari. And I don't think it's any coincidence, even though he spells it with one N. He spells it, I spell it, but I received that. That was the way to spell it, with one N. It is a mana. It brings through the mana, M-A-N-N-A or M-A-N-A. It is the mana frequency, the bread of life, the sustenance. And so the frequencies that come through it relate to that. The impulses, the new triggers, the stimuluses that we're receiving now are coming through that. And they're coming through the conversion zone, whether it's my version of the conversion zone or the slightly more cosmically related conversion zone that this other source is talking about, which I believe is one and the same. I just didn't, what I received was related to the Earth's process here. I didn't go beyond that, and this other source is going beyond that, touching into the whole Orion spectrum. But it's the same thing. I'm quite sure this is the same conversion zone. So what we're receiving through that is the mana, the new bread of life. And that's really the bottom line to it. It's the new bread of life. Okay, I'm going to do another pause here for a moment. So here's another window and another website that I've come across recently. Living life in between worlds through a new assemblage point. Now, this is not something that I don't think I've heard about before. I say I don't think. From my personal information that I've received, you know, it's now 50 years and counting of information that's come through my source. And so I cannot remember if I received something exactly like this or not. But it kind of rings a bell, and I just can't quite lock on to where I might have received some information on something resembling this. So let's just leave that behind and go to it as some new information. And I feel very attuned to it. Let's put it that way. Living life in between worlds. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but look, you can Google it. You know, living life in between worlds. Just that part alone should bring it up on Google. And uploads, downloads, upgrades, many are not only experiencing time speeding up, but a real sense of shifting realities, physical symptoms, and it goes on about that and their own experience they share here. But it gets into this thing about assemblage points. There are key locations that support this phenomenon. For me personally, specific areas of Egypt, the Isle of Iona, Mount Shasta. I've also had this occurrence occurring under the ocean via scuba in Galapagos, and where she finds these assemblage points. When one receives not a shifting of center, but an entirely new assemblage point, the reference points of what was in a 3D timeline sense are simply not there, and one is forced to adjust to the new point and its alignment taking place physically, vibrationally, and dimensionally until the new assemblage point locks on, which can take days or even months to adjust depending on the reality one moves into and the degree one allows the experience to hold firm, as the tendency is to try to pull yourself back into what was and is familiar and safe. And so the key is to refrain from attempting to be sucked back into the polarity vortex by first expanding your toroidal field, becoming an observer of this phenomenon, and then irresistibly a player in the quantum field. I've worked with, opened, and birthed crystal corridors of time galactically at sacred power sites in this capacity since 1991 and can attune to and calibrate the influx occurring. I hold within a unique blend of Earth cellular coding that is tamper-proof in reopening primordial pathways, the conscious intent being to support the shifts occurring in the land and in others. It only takes one step more to ground and alchemize for the whole of humanity and the kingdom collectives. This is a really, really power-packed article and process this person has entered and discovered and knows about, and I'm just amazed by it. And I'm not going to read it all here, but it's for you to research yourself and get into. However, it relates to what I'm talking about with the true singularity, because these assemblage points are what we are critical as we move our critical rotational positions to connect to the new stimuli. We are also creating new assemblage points in our field. And I believe you don't even have to move from your bedroom to create these assemblage points all over the planet that are working with your higher being self. So that's where my interest is really pinged in regard to the series that I'm creating, because I think this is very germane to it. And I'm not going to go further with it. I'm trying to keep these talks short, but please do go to this lady's website and read more about it, because I think she's really, really on something here. And I'm going to study it more myself for my own personal use. So that is what I wanted to share there. Let's see, where are we? Okay, well, I was going to conclude right here with this episode, but Thoth was kind of pinging me, or in the new vocabulary, poking me to go ahead and find the Rex Mundi article, and I just printed it off here to read to you. It's short, and this has to do with the intersecting of lines, cosmic lines, to create a point of creation. And she's speaking in the video we saw, the Orion one, that I felt had some her talk information in it. But you know, that may not be fair to say. It could all be directly channeled and just relate to both mine and her talk's information. I don't know that, so I'm not going to say that. But whatever, that's the energy that I found within it that had to do with what her talk had written and had to do with some of the things I had written in the past. But certainly new information that I never heard anywhere before, and yet I totally resonated with. So wherever the source, it relates strongly about the crossing of lines and the stellar lines to what I had written here. And I want to share this with you. On Rex Mundi. Now, Rex Mundi is a very esoteric title that is often construed as being the devil, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with the devil. But I think it was because it was so misunderstood, and there was power to it, that they assigned it that, you know. So here I'm going to read about it. Rex Mundi, that mysterious esoteric figure whom the Templars and other esoteric orders of the past were fascinated, is viewed in the Akashic Library of Thoth to be a much more expanding dynamic than the Satan-Christ personas, the two polarized views. Followers of the Rennes-le-Chateau mystery and the recent Da Vinci Code have also included Rex Mundi in their esoteric vocabulary. An author going by the name of Chronos Apollonios has written on his website, quote, "The idea of Rex Mundi also relates to the axis mundi, which for these concerns is both the axis of precession and the Earth's magnetic axis. There is the same implication in that there may be in Tolkien's drawing of the Gate of Moria. There is no shortage whatsoever of archaic figures of Christ and many other persons who seem to be holding their staff at the exact angle which the true magnetic north polar axis deviates from the geographical polar axis, concerns which may have entered C.S. Lewis's first book in the Chronicles of Narnia, series, I think it's Narnia actually, series in a whimsical and casual yet complex manner, the form of the appearance of Father Christmas. So I say now, Cronus Apollonius further gives his research around the phoenix rising from the ashes, the alchemical symbol, in context with the axis of procession, in which I see me, Maya, in direct association with Rex Mundi on the cross of light suspended on the world and also embracing the world. As many of you know who have followed my material, I see Orion as the key gateway for this universal continuum, and indeed for the Earth's formation within that continuum as a planetary realm. In this latter regard, the point of creation radiating from the blue star Rigel. My good friend Rami Saji in Jordan occasionally incorporates in his work some of my Akashic material as a basis for his research and own intuitive perspectives. On a page of in his website, he writes about the star trinity of Orion, the Pleiades, and Sirius, based on material in my old Source Temple Doors archives. He also gives some interesting information that I feel relates to Thoth's perspective on Rex Mundi. The Orion constellation Al-Jabbar, now I believe this is his quote here. The Orion constellation Al-Jabbar occupies the midway of the heavens during the winter solstice, December 21st through the 25th of each year. And during this time, Orion takes a standing position in the midnight skies at midnight. It is suggested that in the winter solstice, the energies of the region will be at peak emission. This occurs during each winter solstice within which the period of grace or golden mean is reached. This grace period is also called the Osiris Gate, unquote. According to my insights, Thoth has written in his Akashic library, the esoteric figure of Rex Mundi both masks and contains within it the universal dynamic of awakening in the human being to his/her pure gem body, which is the complete hologram of gnosis contained within all substance and being in the universe is created through the Elohim. In this context, as Rex Mundi, both the twin flame light bearers, Christ and Lucifer, are combined in a non-dualistic whole cosmology of perfection and light, suspended upon the cross of immolation in the flame of burning love, offering eternal regeneration of the light geometries as they become more and more brilliant in the fire of love. This is the greatest act of the phoenix, that through the cyclic movement of the spiral, one comes to the moment of awareness that the spiral is only the springboard of immediate and complete transition of the form and consciousness into the torus of perpetual harmony, where no ebb and flow is necessary in order to sustain presence. Thoth's record also tells us that human form is present in this reality, which we claim as real, where universal streaming lines of creational light language intersect. Out of this intersection, not only does the soul express its forms, various ones on multiple levels of creation, but also its worlds and associate accommodations for other living forms such as plants and animals. Each organized system is brought into form through streaming lines of light language, but the human being and all beings that are generated from the Kadmon template, from whence our Adam Kadmon template is spawned, sets the stage, the arena for the world in which the planet and its nature inhabitants gather and are formed from resonant intersecting creational streamings. The positioning and geomagnetic properties of an ensouled planet are key to its Rex Mundi dynamic, for it is from and to this point in space-time that the forms take shape in the physical and evolve as soul moves through its procession in development. Rex Mundi, the king of the world, is also the bearer of the cup of transfiguration, in which the human being moves through stages of his own duality until he reaches a platform in which he assumes, in a specific and dedicated way, the wound of the world. Through this embodiment, he becomes the wounded king healer of Grail lore, whose wound is born for the world. Through his glorious act of crucifixion and transfiguration upon the cross of this gnosis, which has become his bodhisattva vow, he heals others who touch his wounds of light. It is then that the wounded healer is transformed into Rex Mundi, for he has not now overcome his own creation, the world, to be exalted. Sorry, I lost my place. For he has now overcome his own creation, the world, to be exalted in the phoenix flame of pure illumination. What sets him free? His becoming, with complete presence, the gnosis that all wounds are only love longing to be illumined in the heart. The cosmic world dynamic of Rex Mundi is an important aspect of the solar mysteries. The solar mysteries trace the soul's development and evolution through the rays of the great solar cosmos, which is the center of the creative font, and from which all star suns gain their presence of living light, or what we know in our world myth as angelic beings and realms, which would also include related categories such as the jinn. The light language streamings, which intersect the Adam Kadmon and from whence our humanity is formed, are issued from the constellation of Orion, regardless of from what star tribe that particular incarnating soul may originate. Thus, Rex Mundi is very much an Orion figure. And Osiris, we can see him as Osiris arising, in that he, i.e., this universal dynamic, strikes the balance of the gate of Orion in this universe. So see, even back then, I was writing about Osiris arising, even though my true Osiris arising project was not given to me until just about, 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe less than that. I can't remember. Time just flies by. Okay, to continue here. In the 21st century, it is my belief that we are being infused with codes of the new Earth hologram, which will enable us to more fully enter and receive the higher level light language of the Rex Mundi dynamic. It is the 5 crystalline geometries now coming into our realm and being that offer into our realm and being that offer us the next state of evolution through the light language they contain in their crystalline codes. With the assistance of the matrix angels, we will better prepared for full receipt for the new birth that awaits us. Now, when I wrote this, I was working with the matrix angels and the 5 crystalline geometries, which have already been seeding us for some time now. So not that that's over with, but that's not what's right in our current present alignments. What's coming in now are these new critical rotational positions, but that could not have occurred if we hadn't received these 5 crystalline geometries back in the beginning of this century. So all moves forward very, very orderly, in a very orderly fashion, from one stage to another to another. And so through this Rex Mundi point, again, these light encodings, these new impetus are coming through, being processed through the Yeshuda as we move further into the conversion. All of these things are, coordinating, moving together to bring us to where we are. So in the next installment, I think I'm going to be moving into talking about more how we can bring all this, coordinate all this into our current reality stream and what we can do with it. At least I think that's where I'm going in the next installment. So this is all for now, and I hope this all recorded properly. I'm going to stop the recording and see you all next time. Bye-bye.